Joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, an old friend, an old pal down in deep in the heart of Texas, Tyler Feldman, formerly WITN, joining us today on the program. Hello, Tyler.
Clipper!
Good to see you, man. Good to
What's
see
going
you.
on? What's
Uh,
going on? Thanks for having me. This is very kind of you. I figure you wanted me the day after election night. No better person to bring in
yeah,
to to mix sport with politics. I
maybe
figured
we'll,
that's why you reached out to me yesterday afternoon.
maybe we'll get to those politics later. Honestly, it's kind of random why I reached out to you. So the Washington Commanders are a good football team for the first
Hmm.
time in a long time. I
Yeah.
was trying to think. I was like, man, I used to have a ton of Steelers fans on. Where are those fans? And I was like, well, there's Rob Maloney at D.H. Conley or at Pitt County Schools now. I guess I could go. And then, like, there's a number of former number twos that worked in sports around here that have moved on that were Steelers fans. But I thought about my guy, Tyler Feldman, who's down in Texas. So figured we could talk a little Steelers, but also Longhorns with the college football playoff poll coming out, and wanted to ask you too, Tyler, about covering Texas their first year in the SEC. How different does the season feel when you're playing against SEC teams every week? You still got the Red River rivalry and the non-conference games against Texas schools and all that. But what's it been like covering the Longhorns this year?
The energy has definitely been palpable, a little bit different, more elevated with Texas being in the SEC. And you talk about non-conference in-state opponents. Well, then you also have Texas A&M back on the schedule coming up in about 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So that is a huge game. Could possibly have ginormous SEC championship game implications. So, and just with where Steve Sarkisian is at currently in his development of this Texas football program, where they were when I first got here, that 5-7 season when they lost to Kansas, the way they did at home, a Kansas team and program that wasn't the Jayhawks that we've seen the last couple of years, and where the Longhorns are at now, 7-1, 3-1 in conference. They have a team good enough. I think the big question mark for me is going in. I thought Quinn Ewers was going to really supplant himself as a front runner for the Heisman. That hasn't happened. And Texas has such a talented and gifted offensive line. You've got Kelvin Banks Jr. on the outside. He'll be a top 10, top 5 pick in the draft. He's that good. Quinn Ewers, though, just hasn't materialized in the consistency that I was expecting. I think a lot of people have been hard on Quinn. He's an introvert. And when you have an introvert at that quarterback position at a program like Texas, people forget that he left high school early to enroll in Ohio State early. And then, so that's a 16, 17-year-old kid going across the country. And then things didn't really pan out there. He wasn't happy, had the opportunity to come back to Texas. In his first year on the 40 acres, he was really shy trying to find himself. And the growth that I've seen from Quinn Ewers, at least as a person off the field and then also as a leader, has been noticeable. I thought he was going to take that extra jump this season. Maybe he still will. I just was expecting a little bit more out of him.
And nationally, of course, when anytime there's a Manning, that makes headlines. So everybody outside of Austin's like, all right, why are they not playing Peyton's nephew? Isn't he even better than Quinn Ewers? But what's it like on the inside there, Tyler, having that big name and a big talent behind Quinn Ewers? I guess smart folks say, okay, we've got a great situation, but are there others saying that, hey, Sark, let's make a move. Let's get this Manning kid in there, see what he can do.
Going into this season, even last season with Arch Manning in the background, Arch is totally fine with just kind of doing his thing, learning the systems, being comfortable. Every time we've seen him take the field, though, we've seen those bursts of just top tier quarterback talent. I was at a game earlier this season. My mom came into town, and boy, Arch was making some throws, bootleg left across the body, 40 yards. He can run really well. People don't realize, I almost compare it to, and I tell people, when I first saw Cam Newton in person, I was shocked how big, how tall, how large Cam Newton is and how well he can run. You don't realize a person that size can run that well. Arch Manning is a thick boned dude. He is a lot bigger than I think a lot of people realize. and he has that natural talent. But if you talk to anyone on the inside, it's Quinn Ewers' team. He has the locker room. Arch understands that. Steve Sarkisian, his guy is Quinn Ewers, knowing that Arch Manning will be the guy next year. But we've seen Arch a ton because Quinn can't stay healthy. So that quarterback room, Steve Sarkisian's very fortunate because I don't think you can look at a lot of different quarterback rooms across the country and have a guy like Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. So the Longhorns are pretty fortunate.
And boy, what a throwback! What a to have a quarterback of the future and not have to worry about transferring and things like that. It seems like that is not the norm for teams and schools these days with talented players.
Especially if you're a Commanders fan. Especially if you're a Commander, you have no idea what that's like.
Huh? What kind of reference did you just make there? Well, we've got our guy for now, the future, and the rest of your
you guys struck gold.
We did. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, Tyler, Coach Mac McCarthy sent me a text, and it's a tweet from Robert, we'll say Barons. Here's what I want to happen for chaos, Tyler. Texas needs to lose to Florida. Probably not likely, but, it could happen. Georgia loses to Ole Miss. LSU loses to Bama. Tennessee loses to Georgia. A&M loses to Texas. Those last four are a lot more likely. If that were to happen, the regular season would end with an Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, and Texas A&M tie. 8-way tie for first place in the SEC. Then somebody has to figure out who to put in the championship game.
Pure insanity. I was just trying to calculate everything in my head. The funny thing is that all could happen. Yeah. That's not an impossible situation.
And without the divisions and everything, there's going to be some craziness at the end. A lot of ties, a lot of tiebreakers, things like that. So it's going to be fun to follow here these last few weeks of college football. Tyler Feldman joining us on the program today. Also brought him on to talk a little Steelers Commanders. The Steelers kind of just doing what they do. They'll be in some close games. They'll win a lot of those close games, and they'll be around or above 500 and probably make the playoffs this year, well above 500, Tyler. So how are you feeling about your Steelers?
These last 6 quarters are the best 6 quarters I've watched of the Pittsburgh Steelers since Ben Roethlisberger retired. I haven't been this jazzed up. Now it's a controlled excitement because hopefully Russell Wilson stays healthy. The Steelers made a couple big moves getting Mike Williams, receiver from the Jets, and they got Preston Smith to go on the other side of T.J. Watt.
Former Redskin. Preston Smith.
They made some moves. Omar Khan made some moves, and I think that makes them not a Super Bowl contender, but a contender to certainly give some of the better teams in the league some problems. Steelers have 9 games left. I don't think people realize they have all 6 of their divisional games still left to play. And then you look at the other 3 games at Washington, at Philadelphia, and then home versus Kansas City. So it's not like the Steelers have this walk in the park schedule either to finish out the season. The Ravens always give the Steelers problems. The Bengals, not the Bengals 3 or 4 years ago, but still a very good team. And I don't know, the Browns with Jameis Winston, you just never know. So the Steelers are in a great spot, but their schedule has to be one of the toughest remaining schedules in all of the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing the Terrible Towels take over Northwest Stadium on Sunday, but I am looking forward to what should be a fun game. What did you think of the move when Tomlin decided to go with Russell Wilson over Justin Fields after he had gotten them off to a really good start to the season record-wise, right?
I equate it to Penn State. Penn State's good under James Franklin, but are they ever going to be great and beat Ohio State consistently, beat Michigan consistently? Justin Fields was playing well, but even he said, and he told reporters that he wasn't playing up to the standard and the expectation that he had for himself.
Yeah.
You put Russell Wilson in, and the first 2 quarters, but then he caught his stride in the second half a few weeks ago, and the offense is totally different. There's actually some deep threat. Now you have Mike Williams, so it's not just Pickens down there. And the offense just looks to be moving at a championship caliber pace under Russell Wilson, a healthy Russell Wilson. So look, Mike Tomlin, that's why he's still in Pittsburgh. And I know the Steelers don't like change. And sometimes I've been frustrated with just the complacency at the quarterback position under Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. But he made a tough decision, and so far it's panned out.
Tyler, you mentioned your Nittany Lions there. We are ready to fire James Franklin, right?
It is so tough because the argument then is, okay, who do you replace James Franklin with? And truthfully, the Penn State teams, my dad went there, so we watched the Nittany Lions growing up. The early 2000s, those teams weren't any good. They went through some really tough years before they got to like Paul Posluszny, Sean Lee era in like 04, 05, 06, 07, 08. And then things started to get back on track. So Penn State actually isn't this used to this much consistent winning. But I'm at the point where it's like, okay, 12-2, 11-2, that's fine. But like, let's start competing with Ohio State and Michigan and actually going and win a game. Penn State didn't score a single offensive touchdown against that Ohio State team this past weekend. And then they get inside the 3-yard line and they don't give it to Warren, their best player. 4 downs, and even James said he wasn't sure why they didn't do that after the fact, but punch the ball in.
Yeah, that's
so it's a little bit frustrating, like accepting good, but like, let's be great.
Yeah, your namesake Tyler Warren is awesome. Would love to have him on my.
He literally got you down the 3-yard line.
Yeah,
and then you don't let him. He's basically, I think he's played every position offensively but center this season.
Yeah.
So just hand the ball off to him and let him fight his way in. Stop trying to like prance around. It's not that complicated.
Tyler Feldman joining us. Tyler, what do you miss about being in Greenville and covering East Carolina the most?
I'll say this. Like, I wish I enjoyed Greenville when I was in Greenville. I mean, Clipper, you know me well enough where it's like I always like wanted to get to a bigger market, a bigger city. But I miss the people. I miss the pace of life in Greenville. I miss, Austin has great weather. It gets super hot in the summer. But North Carolina is a top-tier state when it comes to all 4 seasons. So many great people. I definitely miss the people. I miss ECU baseball. Texas baseball is a big deal, but I'd still argue that Clark LeClaire Stadium with the jungle is a better college baseball environment.
Yeah.
I think what people don't realize with Texas, it's in a city. It's in a large city. So the baseball field, Dish Falk Field's right off the highway. So it's a different vibe. And I always thought that Clark LeClaire Stadium harvested a really special environment. I was bummed to see that things really didn't work out with Mike Houston. It seemed like he was on the right trajectory, and then I don't know what happened. It just seemed the last few years it was just like a heavy downward spiral. And I think Greenville has and ECU has such a passionate fan base, and Texas does too. But when you're in an area that is so tight-knit like Greenville, you root for kind of the underdog from afar.
Yeah, and nice words, Tyler. We miss you around here, and
well, you age, and I appreciate that, but you get a little point of view and reflective.
The old is it Michael Scott? It was The Office, right? Where you don't know you're in the good old days until they're the good old days, or something to that effect.
Yeah, and it's nice now with a couple Penn Staters now on local TV where I can impart that wisdom.
Dude,
Zach Kaplan and Dugan Lloyd. I've made sure the Penn State to Greenville train has stayed rolling.
We found a more annoying Penn State guy than Tyler Feldman. I never thought we'd be able to do it, but Zach Kaplan has done it.
There's one thing in common between Zach. Well, there's multiple things in common between Zach Kaplan and I, but there's one in particular that I know you're thinking of.
What is that? Share it with the class.
We're just 2 Jewish Penn Staters trying to annoy Cliff Brock on the rake.
Dude,
take a lot of pride in that.
He admits it. He just one time I asked him, I was like, "Could you? Let's just say you're by yourself in a room for 2 hours. Could you sit in silence?" And he's like, "No, can't do it." Like he'll just talk to himself, talk to a wall. He cannot stop talking. But he's a very nice guy. Love Zach Kaplan. Love Feldman. Love all you nits. So
Yeah, a lot of love. I remember when Zach called me and said there was an opening at Channel 9. And I was like, oh, let me call Ken Watlington and see what we can figure out here for you.
yeah.
So it's nice to see that there's good people still in TV, and
Oh yeah.
the industry has certainly changed quite a bit. I mean, what is this? This is you got like a new microphone,
Oh, we're
like
big time now, dude.
comfortable chair that you can just pass gas in whenever you like.
Well,
This is unbelievable.
We share the studio with a lot of folks. Like Kim McNeil was here the other day, so I'm not going to pass
Love
gas
Kim.
in here. Yeah. So.
Well, it was nice because like Kim McNeil actually was in Austin a couple years ago for the NCAA tournament. They played against Texas.
For some reason, every postseason we run into Texas baseball, women's hoops.
And I was mad that my station here didn't send us to Greenville for the Super Regional. I still can't believe ECU didn't pull that off.
Yeah, well, we got to go.
I'm still like head scratching. I'm watching. I'm like quietly like, yes, ECU.
My producer Danny Beal is telling me we got to go. We're pressed for time. We got to cut.
This is a pressed for time situation.
Tyler, let's do it again down the road, man. But good to catch up with you. Talk a little sports, and we'll do it again.
I'll be pulling for the Steelers this weekend, if that's okay with you.
Go Manders. We'll see what happens.
That's Tyler, what you call them, the Manders?
I call them a bunch of things. Right now, I'm calling them winners and potential champions. See you, buddy.
See you, buddy.